Don-O-Mite!
So Dynamite.
This is awesome! This is this, this is that, this is this! Hey, everybody! Have a great time!
I'm not one of these f***ing goof podcasters out there. I am Don Tony, Wednesday Night Don-O-Mite! Fuck that shit. Coronavirus. We're all doing good, everybody. What's up? It is Wednesday night, March 11th, 2020. I am back once again. This is episode 25. Wednesday Night Don-O-Mite. NXT just went off the air. AEW just went off the air. And look, I'm not making no jokes tonight about Tom Hanks or anyone else that is sick with the coronavirus. It's some scary shit, man. But I want to just put this out there right at the beginning of this show. On this show, we don't talk Raw. On the show, we don't talk Smackdown. Doesn't mean that I can't talk about other topics if I want to or don't want to. Look, during the two wrestling shows today, our president issued a travel ban effective Friday at midnight that I believe nobody coming into the U.S. or going out from Europe, with the exception of maybe the UK. And this is going to be for 30 days. Now, I know that's going to ruin some people's WrestleMania plans that were planning on traveling to the United States. What can you say? Shit happens. We got a serious thing going on, this coronavirus, and it has to be dealt with. The only thing I could say for those living in other countries, hope that your government, and it's not just traveling, you know, it's for businesses that are interrupted. It's livelihoods that are interrupted. Let's hope that your respective countries do the right thing for your neighbors and for everybody who lives in your country, your countrymen. In the United States, I have some customers because I do insurance for a living. I have people who do Spartan races. I'm sure you know what that is. I was talking to the guy tonight. I was talking to a guy who does a lot of DJing across the United States. He contacted me. Venues are being canceled. I know the NBA, I think, just suspended their games. Look, one thing I want to let everybody know out there, and it's no surprise, you got a lot of very lonely people on social media. You also have a lot of websites and a lot of journalists who claim they got exclusives about everything. All right, if you want accurate news as far as WrestleMania goes, Tampa, Florida, please do not make the same mistake that a lot of people made with Saudi Arabia. Follow the mainstream news sites. Follow the financial and business world. Follow the government institutions. Don't follow WrestlingVirgins.com. Don't follow ProWrestlingExperts.net. Don't follow WrestlingJournalistSince1995.org. Follow the real sites, because you have websites that were caught in lies the last 24 hours about Tampa. Even after Tampa, Florida, today, Tampa, not a fan site, Tampa, said that WrestleMania is still on, and for everybody to talk to WWE, and they're going to take precautions. Now, tomorrow in Tampa, they're having a meeting of how to handle some of these venues. AEW tonight, they didn't perform in front of 250 fans. There were thousands in attendance. NXT tonight didn't perform in front of 250 fans. There were thousands in attendance tonight. You're going to have spring training for baseball. You're going to have some XFL. You know, I know in Washington, the bottom line is please, unless you're lonely also and you want to get absorbed into this hysteria, I wash my hands multiple times. How many of you out there, and we'll move on in a second, I promise you. How many of you out there have been to doctor's offices over the years, especially in the wintertime? Checkup, blood work, whatever it is. And you go into the doctor's office and every person over the age of 75 is sitting in there going, we've been around people who were sick with flu before. We've been around people who have chicken pox. We've been around people who have measles. I'm not downplaying the coronavirus. My point is, if you know that there is flu going around, if you know that there's measles going around, chickenpox, whatever it is, and you're in a public environment, you take precautions. You're at a party, you're at a restaurant, when the waiter says, "Can I help you?" You make sure you keep your distance. You don't go right in front of their face and go, "Give me nachos." You wash your hands. You use hand sanitizer. You take a little bit extra precaution. But when there's 80 million people in the United States and 10,000 are sick, we don't want anybody sick. But there's a lot of other catchy illnesses that do come out. This is a very serious thing, but the idea that people are bunkering down, and I can only speak for the United States. I see what's going on with Australia. I heard tonight about Tom Hanks and his wife, Rita Wilson, got hit with it. It's no joke, man. It's no joke. But, I'm not going to change my life, because of what's going on. I will worry about my own surroundings. Even with my personal life, even with the podcasting, even with any work I do, I worry about me. I can only control me. And everybody out there control you. But again, if you're lonely on social media and you want to talk about this till you're blue in the face, if you want to talk about all these conspiracy theories, I call a lot of these people on these websites and podcasts Corona virgins. Because they are putting so much paranoia with all these banners. WrestleMania canceled, WrestleMania this. There was even one Matarazz tonight that after Tampa said that WrestleMania is still on, contact WWE if you want any more information. They actually claim that Tampa wasn't being honest. It reminded me of the AJ Styles stuff. So just worry about yourselves. I hope everybody out there doesn't get this, and trust me, you could get it out of nowhere. What do we got? The RKO out of nowhere. You get the coronavirus out of nowhere. But stay away from all these corona virgins online that are just looking for conversation because they're lonely. All these people that say they work all day long, but they're on social media, like all the time. And these websites that think they have exclusives, they got Stugats. Like I said Monday, they got Stugats. Anyway, tonight we're going to talk about wrestling. We're not going to get bogged down in this shit. Maybe I'll do an episode of the Don Tony Show Friday if you all want to talk about this in detail. On Monday, I gave my thoughts. WrestleMania, I personally think it's going to still be on. I'm not making predictions. I'm not reporting news. I'm just giving you my opinion. But one thing I will do is I will follow all the real sites out there to get the accurate news. I'm not going to bother with any of these wrestling websites because they don't give a shit about this stuff. They just give a shit about hits and likes and attention and exclusivity. Stay away from them. Seriously. It'll just bring you down. It'll make you miserable. And I understand a lot of people out there are very, very nervous about this. But, if you control your surroundings, again, when you look at the overall scope of how many people live in your country, and then you see how many people are sick, of course, it's something to be concerned about. Doesn't mean that you walk up to everybody and just start spitting away and, letting them spit in your face. You just got to be cautious, very cautious. Anyway. We're going to talk about AEW tonight. I saw the entire show. Maybe not as good as previous shows. Had a nice flow to it. I mean, AEW is definitely tightening up some stuff. I had a couple of things tonight I wasn't too fond of. NXT was a good show as well. sometimes a little bit too organized, which is something I've been saying for almost day one. If you took attention to the ratings last week, it came this close. I think I was within, 10,000 of AEW's rating and like 20,000 of NXT. This week, AEW will win again. I think this week, the ratings definitely get closer. A Moxley interview, I don't know if that's going to cut it enough. The main event tonight, Hangman Page, we've been saying it for a while. He's one of the biggest stars of that company. And, I don't know if AEW planned on turning him already. But if they did and then they changed course for now, props to them for doing so. Because right now you don't need to mess with that at all. Obviously, in 2 weeks with the blood and guts, cage War Games match they're going to have, of course, something is going to happen in that match. It seems right now, Matt Jackson, Hangman Page seems to be, the two, tonight, you get a little bit of this in return. Kenny Omega might be forced to choose sides down the line. And maybe Kenny Omega chooses the Young Bucks and that pushes Hangman Page over the edge. We will see. Tonight also, we saw Jake the Snake Roberts. And look, I have tons of notes. I got lots of news to get into today. I'm just talking to you right now, just off the top of my head. Jake the Snake Roberts showed up today on Dynamite, he shows up during the Cody Ortiz match. Got to give major props to Tony Schiavone tonight for name-dropping Oscar Gamble, who is a very beloved New York Yankee here in the 70s. I think he might have actually played in the early 80s, maybe 82, 83-ish, around that time. I still remember the Milwaukee Brewers-Yankees playoffs from 81, which was awesome. And he hit a home run. I think he hit a home run right after Reggie Jackson did off of Musas, I believe. I got those games on DVD, by the way. But, Jake the Snake Roberts comes out during the Cody Ortiz match, and he is with Lance Archer. Right away, the internet, it's funny, the people that don't pay attention to New Japan, and they only know him as Lance Hoyt, or they only know him for when he was in WWE many years ago, and they're shitting on the guy. You fucking paid no attention to this man for years and years and years. You're going to start shitting on this guy because of what you knew 10 years ago? If you knew so much years back, you would have known that Jake the Snake Roberts actually, quote unquote, was a mentor to Lance Archer back then. Didn't he have, the PCW title or something like that? This infamous photo. Go look it up. You'll see what I'm talking about. But so he's sitting at ringside tonight for a little while for Cody's match. One point, Lance Archer is teasing he's going to jump the guardrail. And Jake the Snake Roberts, no. Now, I know some people out there are a little disappointed that the revelation was like almost nothing. It almost felt like an NWO moment when X-Pac happened to be sitting front row and he's got his ticket. Maybe it felt like that. All I'm going to say, look, Tommy, I had to wear the Met hat tonight because one of my good friends who is on Patreon now, Brian Thompson, it's his birthday, and he asked me to wear something Mets. So I always support my friends. So that's why I'm wearing it. So, sorry if you don't like it, but it's either that or the messed up hair tonight. So I have other hats. Maybe I could. Well, I can't. Oh, no, this is a customer's hat. I can't wear that because people will be Googling the phone number and stuff like that. But just getting back to what I was saying with Lance Archer and Jake the Snake Roberts, not for nothing. Don't immediately assume. Now, look, could very well be that Lance Archer is Jake Roberts' protege. They're doing the mentor thing again. But don't jump the gun yet. Maybe there's someone else in this camp. Maybe it ends up being a stable. I know it felt a little uneventful. Maybe you expected the lights to go off, and then they came back on and it was Lance Archer. Or maybe you expected a run-in with a mask, another mask in AEW. So maybe a little uneventful that he just happens to walk ringside with Jake Roberts, you know. Don't necessarily think that that's all it is. It could very well be, but don't jump the gun. Seriously, don't jump the gun. Next week, we apparently will be finding out who the Exalted One is. Shout out to Adam Weber. He's just a little late tonight. Yeah, we talked about the travel ban earlier. We'll get into it probably Friday a little bit more. And by the way, shout out to everybody in the chat. And, we're going to start having some fun with the super chat down the line. I got some funny photos that we'll be adding in the future. And, you know, people have been asking me with the super chat because I'm still new to this. I'm not even doing this 2 months after 23 years of audio. So, you know, I understand, you know, you do that. You know, people's like, oh, you know, why don't you ask us anything or ask me anything, whatever you want. You know, if you want to go that way, I'm cool with it. You should see I'm very, very down to earth with everyone. Very, very, I could poke fun at myself. It's no problem. And later on, I'm actually going to talk about a couple of contests that I'm going to be doing. Might start them next week, maybe the week after. But this past weekend in New York, we had the big event. Big autograph convention that went down. I mean, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Braun Strowman, Undertaker, Matt Hardy. I mean, there was so many people that were there. Sabu, J.J. Dillon, Jimmy Hart, who was such a freaking nice guy, man. I mean, everybody had a ball. I mean, it was just a wonderful day. The Godfather was there. He looks like he could still go easily. And look, I don't have the list, and I'm not going to talk about it too much today, but I actually, while I was there, I had the opportunity to meet this guy, as you saw in the preview. And Shaheen, who actually did artwork for him very recently, is going to be giving me a bunch of autograph photos that we're going to be giving away on this show on Wednesday Night Don-O-Mite. Like I said, we may start it next week or the week after at the latest. And, you know, maybe I can pull up the artwork. I actually, do I have it? Yes, I do. I have it right here. This is Shaheen's artwork. And we're going to get a couple of these and a few other surprises. And we're going to start giving them away on Wednesday Night Don-O-Mite. Probably use the wheel. Maybe we'll do some trivia contests. Maybe we'll select somebody at random. Tuning in the chat, we'll spin the wheel, and whatever topic it comes on to, you know, you ask a question, you get it right, you get yourself a prize, you know. We'll do that in the near future. But anyway, so with the big event this weekend, I got to meet a lot of friends of the show, a lot of names that I never put faces in front of. These were a few of the photos of yours truly in attendance. Had a great time. And AJ Moore, you know, I am so sorry because I kept calling him Art Moore on Monday because he's a wonderful artist. If you look behind me, you see the Moxley artwork behind me. That's his. You see the Piper work behind me. That's his. You know, and Shaheen, awesome artist as well. I mean, the Vader artwork is Shaheen's, the Heart Foundation that you see over there. We got a couple of different, I got stacks, original artwork, and they both gave me original prints that we're going to be giving away on this show in the near future. But I had such an awesome time, and Matt Hardy, really, really cool. Very down to earth, very friendly. If anybody out there expect me to give some type of an exclusive saying that, you know, he's going here, he's going there, he was not giving it away. And honestly, as a wrestling fan, because I am a fan first and foremost, I don't want to know where Matt Hardy's going to. If you said to me right now, DT, you can have the exclusive. The entire world will be focused on you. You break the news where Matt Hardy's going to go. Would you rather have that, or would you rather not know and be surprised? And my honest answer would be, as long as he did not return to Raw or SmackDown, I would rather be surprised. And that is the God honest truth. So honestly, I don't want to know where he's going to appear. Now, next week, AEW is going to be in Rochester. The Exalted One is going to be revealed next week. Well, who lives in Rochester? Who hails from Rochester? Remember last week I talked about the Girl Scouts theme, you know, blah, 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 quack, blah, 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 quack. Well, Brody Lee, the former Luke Harper, he hails from Rochester. AEW's in Rochester next week. I don't know if it's going to be him. I know some of you out there would have loved to have been in the corner of Jake the Snake Roberts. You know, you got to understand something about Jake. His promo last week was awesome. The problem is we don't know how many appearances Jake Roberts is signed for in AEW. We don't know if he's only going to be there for a month and be gone. So if he is just, helping someone get their feet wet, Jake Roberts, before you know it, may be gone. So we don't know how big of a role Jake Roberts will have in the company. But AEW obviously has put a ton of investment in the Dark Order. And next week, we will find out who the Exalted One is. Now, a funny thing happened today on Dynamite. And yes, I'm going back and forth. Like I said, I'm still no notes. I'm just talking to you. It was a funny segment tonight with Christopher Daniel. Oh, and by the way, some of you were asking, this is my favorite ECW shirt of all time. I could stand up for it. Brian Pillman, ECW. Now, I'm not going to take the jacket off, but the other side says the Rogue Horseman is taking it to the extreme or whatever. It's love this shirt. I'm wearing it tonight, a little bit because of the Meltzer Awards. A lot of you out there wanted me to comment about the Meltzer Awards, and I will comment about it later. But it's not going to be the commentary that you may actually like, some of you. But I'm going to just, because we got to emphasize something about the Meltzer Awards later. But getting back to Daniels, very, very funny segment today. Early on, some people thought that Daniels could be the leader of the Dark Order. He comes, they do a segment today, Dark Order sucks. And he is doing the vignette, and he's wearing his suit, and he's trying to talk like he's, about in the Dark Order. He challenges Stu Grayson and Evil Pete Uno to singles matches. And basically he says that, if he'll face them both and he'll show that the Exalted One will not come out and blah, 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 blah. And he's not the Exalted One. Like I said a couple of weeks ago, whoever the Exalted One is going to be, obviously AEW is not stupid. Tony Khan's not stupid. Jericho, Omega, Young Bucks, Cody, they're not stupid. They've hyped this up so much that it can't end up being... Can't be a fart. It's got to be something good. It's got to be a big swerve. Now, does this mean that Daniels has both matches next week? I know he said, I'll fight you on Dark. I'll fight you on Dynamite. So if they're going to reveal the Exalted One next week, sounds like Daniels is going to do double duty next week. We'll see. But, I think Brody Lee's got to fit in there somewhere. And you look at wrestling as a whole. You look at wrestlers in New Japan. You look at wrestlers in Ring of Honor, NWA, Impact Wrestling. There's not too many names out there that you could look at and say, yeah, that person would be awesome as the Exalted One. Could be somebody currently in AEW that you would not expect to be the Exalted One. But if it's somebody from the outside... it's got to be somebody good. So let's just sit back, relax, wait a week. And at this time next week, we'll either be praising the hell out of it or we'll be shitting on it. Something tells me we're going to be praising it. And I'm not just saying that to be an AEW gusher. You know that I criticize them too. And, every week I try to bring one thing out that I dislike the most about AEW and NXT. The one thing that I did not like today, the most, not even close, about AEW was the match that had MJF, the Butcher and the Blade versus Jurassic Express. Now, I have said before my thoughts on Marco Runt. All right. With the right opponents, I have no problem with the offense that he does. I understand because of how small he is, he's got to do moves with Jungle Boy or Luchasaurus to get, to give that suspension of disbelief. The problem is that Jungle Jack Perry is not on that level yet. If I recall, I think on Meltzer's Awards, Jungle Jack Perry was the Rookie of the Year. Now, I'm not going to give any comments on that right now. I will say one thing right now. I thought Brian Pillman Jr. should have been Rookie of the Year, and I'll explain why later. But the point I'm getting at, it's really hot here today. We've actually have warmer weather, and I was going to go jacketless today, but I said, to hell with it. It's all right. But the one thing I did not like, there was two things I didn't like today, but they both happened in the same match. There was one point during the match, and we've complained a lot about Santana and Ortiz doing this. We've complained about the Lucha Brothers doing this in the past. Well, it happened tonight with the Blade and MJF. There was one part during the match where Marco Runt did a tope suicida, if I remember correctly, through the middle rope and dove onto MJF and the Blade. They caught him. They knock him down. So now Jungle Boy proceeds to dive, outside the ring into Marco Runt and then knocks over the Blade and MJF. The problem is that, and this is what I was saying before, Jungle Boy is very good. He still has a lot of work to do. He's just started in his career. What is he, 23 years old? 23 or 22. So he's got many years to improve still. But the timing is still off. And when you have shoddy camera work sometimes, those couple of seconds look like minutes. And when you had MJF and the Blade catch Marco Runt, I call him Marco Runt. There's a few people asking, why do I call him Marco Runt? I know it's Marco Stunt, but to me, it reminds me of Brother Runt. But you see, Brother Runt was ruined as Spike Dudley in WWF when they started making him win all the time. When he was losing all the time, made his character perfect. And as soon as they gave him a belt and it was terrible. So to me, it's like another Brother Runt. I call him Marco Runt. But Jungle Jack Perry's timing is still not on point yet. And let's also be honest, too. Maybe the Blade and MJF have a little responsibility as well to try to compensate the fact that Jungle Jack Perry, is a little late. And what happened is they catch Marco Runt, and they're holding him, and Jack Perry is setting up for a move inside the ring, and he runs to the other side of the ring, and then he dies. And meanwhile, the whole time, they're just holding him. It happened another point during the match with the Butcher. The Butcher had Marco Stunt on him, and he's moving around like he's in maybe he had I don't want to start doing those jokes, but he looked like he was in a daze. Which way did he go, George? Which way did he go? And just waiting for the other person to hit him. And it's little things like that piss me off. The one other thing that I didn't like today, and I've been warming up to Aubrey Edwards. I love what she does with the podcast. And by the way, for any of you out there that are starting to get into AEW's podcast, tomorrow on their unrestricted, Tony Khan will be on. So it's going to be very interesting to see what is discussed and what is not discussed. Now, let me talk about the other thing I didn't like, and then we'll mention something else about AEW with the coronavirus thing and everything. There was one point where Marco Runt had MJF in the corner, and he's kicking him and kicking him and kicking him and kicking him. And Aubrey Edwards, starts really, yelling at him, because, MJF's in the corner. Break. And he's like, okay. He goes right back in the corner and starts. I think it was Jungle Boy, actually. I take that back. I'm not looking at my notes yet, but it was Jungle Boy that did it. And Jungle Boy's throwing the kicks. And Aubrey Edwards pulls him away, and she's like, I'm going to do whatever, DQ you, whatever. So okay. He goes back, and she goes, ah! Like she gets startled. But as he's doing it, here comes the spasms with the flailing like this. Come on, man. I see that, and it sucks, man. I know for the people live, it's fun, it's entertainment, they'll take it so seriously. That's because when you're there live, you're focused on whoever you particularly want to see. Maybe you're there because you love Luchasaurus more than anybody else. You keep your eyes glued to him. When we're watching it at home and they have a camera positioned a certain way, we can't turn around and hit the remote and see a different camera angle. We're forced to focus on whatever is being presented to us. And the way to do that, I know, Ben, I hate to say it like that, but the ref, said it before, they look like they're having seizures. Go back and look at her again. When he runs back in, she's like, ah! And then, seriously, break those arms. And see, so, look, small part. I always try to bring up something that I had a problem with. NXT, we'll get into that a little bit later as well. And you know what, since, we'll do the show a little bit different today, since I've talked so much about AEW already, I guess we could kind of finish up the TV recap right now. Why not? Couple of things I want to just fill in. They had said early on that Jon Moxley was not allowed to be in the building due to medical reasons. I honestly don't know what the fuck that means. I mean, why was Kenny Omega allowed in the building? He had medical reasons. He's got an injured wrist. What is this medical reasons? It just, to me, I was like kind of dopey. That was their way, obviously, of giving, Moxley the night off. They did the interview segment, which was fine. No problem with that. Early on, when the show first opened up, we didn't know who Hangman Page's partner was going to be tonight to take on Jericho and Guevara. And I had joked on social media, and I said, wouldn't it be funny if it ends up being Matt Jackson, since last week, he did this. So early on, he's got the Young Bucks with him, and I said to myself, wow, that would be pretty funny if it ends up being Matt Jackson. Well, he basically was teasing a little bit that he might team up with Nick Jackson, but then he said his partner is going to be a mystery. So right before they start the show, you have Matt Jackson saying to Nick, don't tell me you're even considering teaming up with that prick. We found out later that was not the case. We'll explain why. But as I said earlier, Ortiz took on Cody. Fun match, opened up AEW Dynamite. Cody, more ground wrestling, figure four, gets the win on Ortiz. After the match is over, Santana interferes. They're saved by Kenny Omega and Matt Jackson. Kenny Omega, again, have the brace on his hand, so he cannot compete for 2 weeks. And then we get on their Titantron, Jericho in the inner circle in the back. And basically Jericho tells the guys in the ring that in 2 weeks they're going to beat the hell out of them, those pumpkin head dipshits. Then they show Nick Jackson. Nick Jackson is, the parking garages. I always, don't ask me why I always remember this, but Al Snow. Remember when Al Snow made his return to the WWF after ECW? He fought that match with Shane Douglas and lost. And I think it was the next night on Raw. Those parking gates for the garage came up very slowly, and it was Al Snow with head. I don't know if anybody remembers that. Well, the same type of gates. Don't ask me why I even remembered that just now, but I always remember that with the gates. But they show Nick Jackson underneath the gate. And, they put a little bit of fake blood next to his mouth and this and that. And I don't know why his voice box was crushed, because he was just doing this. And I'm sorry for those listening on audio, but I'm going to do a visual right now. Basically, he's, they're trying to play off that he's pinned under the garage gate enough, or on his head, his body, and all he's doing is this. He's like, and he kept doing it. Looked like an old man, has no teeth, and they have like dry mouth, and they're like, that's what he was doing. So they beat the hell out of him. They go and they try to find him. And, the next thing you know, the ambulances show up. And, Cody, as great as he is, he goes to the hospital and miraculously comes back later on. But, yeah, why couldn't he talk? I mean, seriously, maybe because my volume, because remember, I watch NXT at the same time, so I try to keep the volumes even so I could hear both. Maybe he was talking, but I had the volume high enough that, honestly, I looked at him and all I saw was... And it was funny because if you just focused on him while the inner circle's around him, it was pretty funny. I thought it was funny. Yeah. So anyway, they bring him out in the ambulance, whatever. You know, would have been fun. Now just think, when I criticize some of the stuff with WWE, now just think how hokey that would have been if you just want to go the idea of what they did with Becky Lynch. They lift the gate up and, you know, Nick Jackson's got to go to the hospital because of what happened. And Nick Jackson just pushes everybody aside and drives away in the ambulance himself. The fuck out of here. Seriously, what are you writing for 5-year-olds? So anyway, so that's what we had to open up. It was not a bad segment. This is all designed for 2 weeks from now. War Games, Inner Circle versus the Elite. So it did what it needed to do. So next we had Hikaru Shida, Chris Statlander versus Nyla Rose and Bea Priestley. Not a bad match. Again, you know, some of these women are still very early in their careers. They're not going to become 5-star workers overnight. Time and experience, repetition. And, you know, I know some people are not happy with the way they've been using Shida. Shida is very important to help Nyla Rose improve, to help Statlander improve, to help. So I agree. I wish some of these other women would be utilized better, but that's just not the case. But it was not a bad match. It hid a lot of the inexperience from the two. There was one point, and little things like this I pick up on, and I'm going to give Nyla Rose credit for just little things like this. There is a video clip that's floating around right now of Colt Cabana. I forget who he wrestled. Maybe somebody that's watching live right now knows who his opponent was. Yeah, I see a lot of the same clips that pop up on Twitter as you all do. And it's just common sense. You might have heard me say this in the past, especially with the Lucha House Party, because just having them dive off the Empire State Building and everybody, instead of catching them, they just all get out of Dodge and just let him go splat like a bad cartoon. That's what I want to see. I might even get sexually aroused at something like that. But the thing is that sometimes common sense is more important than catching someone. And, you know, I've talked in the past when I used to do the indie managing stuff, the importance of catching people. It's very important. So anyway, there's a clip online of Colt Cabana from this that, you know, popped up on Twitter this weekend. And Colt Cabana, somebody ran the rope and went to jump, I think, on the middle rope and then dive backwards. And Colt Cabana just, you know, shifted, detoured to the right and let the guy go splat. And it was great because he just nonchalantly just took a detour, let the guy go splat. And things like that are not utilized enough. So what happens today? You have Hikaru Shida in the ring with Nyla Rose. And Shida, they're in the middle of the ring, and Shida goes to run the rope. And before she could even run the rope, Nyla Rose grabs her hair and then gives her a clothesline, knocks her down. Go back and watch that little spot. Little things like that I think are awesome. Yeah, nobody. You could go out, look out for that clip. By the way, you want to see something funny? I don't mind jumping back and forth a little bit. You see this? NWA put this up on eBay about 9 hours ago. It's an autographed poster of Colt Cabana from Into the Fire. Apparently, it's the only poster that they had. They made one poster. It appeared on, I think, their pay-per-view. Colt Cabana signed it after. Now, I have nothing against Colt Cabana. I have sung the praise of Colt Cabana quite a bit. But if you go on eBay right now, the opening bid is $54.99 or $59.99, and the buy it now price is $349. Not for nothing. Now, any of you out there that have collect autographs, all right, you tell me Why would a 24 by 36 poster of Colt Cabana, who is no longer in NWA, be worth $349? Honestly, when I saw that price tonight, and I'm sorry, I'm saying this in a comedian, I said, did he get arrested? Did he kill someone? Did he die? Like, why is a Colt Cabana autograph $350 on a fucking poster? So as of 30 minutes ago, no bids. No bids. So look, whoever in NWA thought that was going to generate any type of serious coin, seriously, man, you need to, that was just whacked. I mean, if you ask me what I think would be a reasonable price, I think $50-$60 for autograph poster is not that bad of a deal because it's 24 by 36. It's a nice size, but $349 buy it now price. I swear to God, I looked at that and I said, did this motherfucker die or something? That all of a sudden his autographs went up 10 times the value? Seriously, go on eBay. Look for yourself. You think I'm making it up? So, and by the way, I don't think we did get any Colt Cabana today. It's all right. It's okay. So anyway, so I love the little things like that. You need a little bit more common sense during the matches. She just sidestepped Sheeta and just pulled her down. Now, what was interesting was after Nyla Rose and Bea Priestley won, they teased a little bit of dissension. Now, what they're trying to do is they're trying to set up a multi-women match for Nyla Rose's title. And they don't want it to be just baby faces and Nyla Rose because there are some talented women in that company that are heels. And they want to try to make it look like everybody is out for Nyla Rose's title. So Bea Priestley, after her and Nyla Rose won, she started to put the boots on Nyla Rose. And, they're teasing on social media, dissension there. I don't know if it'll be a gauntlet. I don't know if Nyla Rose should be involved in a gauntlet. I almost see it like you have a one-fall victory and maybe someone else is about to get, you've seen this type of match before. Somebody hits like their finisher on someone and they're about to get the win. And then the champion, pulls that person outside the ring and runs in the ring and steals the pin and gets the victory. That seems probably better suited for Nyla Rose right now. I don't know if Nyla Rose, if it would work right now for her to have a gauntlet, especially her size. You want her matches, if she's going to win quickly. And if she's going to be in a multi-person match, they can have it where she's laid out outside the ring for a little while and then she steals someone else's victory and retains the title. So, but it was not a bad match. Was it an awesome match? No, but it did what it needed to do. Next, we had that promo by Daniels. Then we had the match, Butcher Blade, MJF. They defeat Jurassic Express. We had MJF with the Salt of the Earth on Marco Run for the win. Once again, MJF with the I Pin Cody shirt. His intro now, when he comes out before his theme music, it says, I'm better than you, and you know it. Then it plays the music. As ridiculously cheap that shirt is that MJF wears, I pinned Cody. You know why I love that shirt so much? Go back and look at 80s Roddy Piper. Especially when he was in Portland, especially when he was in NWA, at the very beginning of his WWF career, when he used to wear those shirts, Hot Rod, I'm still number one, Piper pays back, too much Rod. Those shirts look the same. Maybe Piper shirts were more red at times. It almost looks like MJF used the same font that Piper used to use on his T-shirts in the early 80s. So as cheap and as simple as MJF's shirt is, I love it, man. I know Piper was very influential. That got him, to be a fan of wrestling. And I'm sure a lot of what he does is to pay tribute to Piper. But again, you look at Piper's shirts from the Feds I just said and look at MJF side by side. To me, that's a tribute to Piper. Love the shirt. No one else should be wearing the shirt but him. You know, even when Piper wore those shirts back then, they didn't sell them for $6. You know, they didn't have them Pro Wrestling Illustrated's catalog. They didn't have it at the shows. Piper was the only one wearing that shirt. I loved it. I love it. So, moving on, because believe it or not, we've already gone 45 minutes. I want to get in some news also and get out of here. Obviously, with the coronavirus stuff, kind of threw it for a loop. And I will say this before I go any further. AEW issued a press release, maybe more like an announcement today, saying that they're going to be very cautious, but they're going ahead with all their events. A lot of other companies are doing that as well. Ring of Honor, too. All right. Again, I honestly, truthfully, sincerely feel bad for those who live overseas that are not going to be able to come in WrestleMania weekend. All right. I really do feel bad. But for those in the United States, you know, if you are cautious and you want to take that risk and you make sure that nobody, you know, breaks that plane, you have like I don't want to use Statlander's space shit like force fields and stuff like that, but you should have like a imaginary barrier. You don't want anybody crossing this barrier. Even if you're a single person and you could pick up, you know, a partner to have some fun. You might want to be a little careful with that as well. But, you know, for those WrestleMania weekend, look at NXT today. You know, Charlotte, Rhea Ripley having that confrontation. You know, again, this is why you really, really, really have to avoid these people online, especially those websites and those podcasts where things are not looking good. WrestleMania canceled, coronavirus, pictures of viruses, I guess. All they're looking for is this. That's all they're looking for. Stay away from them. You want the real, honest updates? Follow WWE. Follow any promotion that you're planning on going to see in Florida. And I'm also going to say something else. And I have a feeling a lot of you out there have already thought about this. But you know for a fact, and I'm not going to use any individual promotions or names. It's not just wrestling. But here's a little revelation. And I say that sarcastically. Not every wrestling company out there does well in attendance. I was even making a joke, even though Impact Wrestling is really trying, so I'm trying to give them a little bit more the benefit of the doubt. You know, there were people earlier saying, oh, my God, maybe these promotions could wrestle in empty arenas. I said, yeah, and then everybody will mistake them for Impact Wrestling. But no, seriously, not every wrestling company draws well. Not every wrestling company does good. You have companies that will sometimes cancel events, including WWE, and they'll blame it on scheduling conflicts. So there is no doubt in my mind, maybe it does not happen in Florida, but I think it'll happen in other states where you have a promotion that is drawing squat, that they know they're going to lose money, that they know that they might even have less than 50 people that they usually have because some people may be afraid to go because of the coronavirus scare. And they're going to use the coronavirus as a reason to cancel their event. Instead of poor ticket sales, instead of my promotion sucks, what they're going to say is, you know, for the safety of all of our fans, we felt that we should postpone for look, if that's Japan, China, California, New York, Washington, and some other areas, all right, I get it. But when it's some bullshit fed somewhere and there's virtually no cases, there's 1 out of 280,000 people, that's people using the coronavirus to cancel their promotion and try to look like they're actually giving a shit about the public. I'm telling you, you're going to see people doing that. They're going to hide behind poor ticket sales, poor attendances, and not wanting to lose more money. And it's an easy way. Plus, think about it like this. When you're a bad promotion and you're only drawing 40 people, there's a lot of promotions that are like that. You're only drawing 40 people. And you almost feel like, fuck, if I cancel this show, some of those 40 may not come back, you know, so you run out of excuses of why to cancel a show. So now you figure, oh, shit, I could just say, you know, we're so concerned for our fans and for the wrestlers. Even though that same wrestler is going to go to Tom's Dick and Ring Wrestling and Ribs Fed, instead of your booking, because we care about our wrestlers and we care about our fans and we don't want to see anybody, possibly be at risk, we have decided to postpone our shows, for 30 days or 20 days or 15 days. And, our fans will understand. And, you care about us so much. Hiding. Not everybody, but hiding. But Ring of Honor, they said all their shows are on. They have their 18th anniversary show this weekend. I'll give you the lineup a little bit later. So you look closely. It's funny. You look at these goofs online, and yes, I broke my goof rule. I'm only going to say goof once tonight as far as those people. But if you look at them online, it almost sounds like WrestleMania is the only wrestling event around that has more than 50 people in it. Like I said, you had AEW tonight, NXT earlier tonight. You have other wrestling companies. You have Ring of Honor, MLW, all these feds that are going to be in Florida, and all their shows are still on. So what, you see where I'm going with this? Don't pay attention to them. Don't pay attention. There's thousands of people going to events every week, and they're not being canceled. All right. I understand when you're talking about NBA and multi-million dollar, tens of millions, suspending it for 2 weeks, a month. Minga, these fans today never dealt with the MLB baseball strike of 1994 or 1981? I mean, we lost half a season of baseball in 81 because of the strike between the owners and the players. You imagine if social media was around back then? Look, the NBA suspended. Is it officially canceled for the rest of the season? They suspended. Do people even understand the definition of different words? So anyway, Larry is saying WWE has pulled the plug on this Friday's Smackdown taping in Detroit, Michigan, and will instead broadcast Friday night Smackdown at the WWE Performance Center. All right, now think about that for a minute. That is more of a logistics with Detroit, Michigan. They're going to be at the Performance Center. All right. Are their fans going to be in attendance? Is there some type of decision? Every state is different here in the United States. Some states are at bigger risk than others. But again, every state handles their business a different way. You can't paint that broad of a brush. There's going to be precautions, and there should be, depending on where events take place. Of course, understand something too. And this goes for people in Australia, England, China, Japan, Italy. Jesus Christ. Think about that. Thank God my niece came back when she did a couple of weeks ago. She'd be stuck there. Everything is shut down over there. But the thing is that even if you live like in the United States, how one state handles it may be a little bit different than another state handles it. So, just because SmackDown is being relocated or not doesn't mean you can't pay attention to these sites that are saying canceled. It doesn't look good, everybody. How many times did you read that today? Doesn't look good, everybody. Pay attention to the major news sites. Pay attention to the companies themselves. Pay attention to the business world. Pay attention to the governments that represent those cities, towns, and states. If they say it's canceled, then you talk about it. Not because John Suplex Schmucks.com does it. No. I learned my lesson from Saudi Arabia last year. So anyway, next week, we have the Lucha Brothers versus the Best Friends, which should have taken place this week. Last week, Lucha Brothers, Pac, the Death Triangle, they beat up the Best Friends, Orange Cassidy. Why is this fucking postponing every week thing? Why isn't things happening the week after? Do you notice that happen? That happens a lot in AEW. The beatdown is last week. We'll do it in 2 weeks. No. This week should have been the Best Friends in Orange Cassidy, even if you just wanted to do 2-on-2 like they're doing next week. Anyway, next week the Exalted One gets revealed. Next week we have the Inner Circle versus the Elite in a 6-man tag, not a 10-man, but a 6-man, to see who gets the upper advantage for the beginning of the Blood and Guts match. I think these are the rules. I was jotting everything down as the show was going along tonight, that basically you're going to start off with two people with a 5-minute round. Then every 2 minutes, another participant enters. The next week's 6-man tag, whoever wins that tag gets the upper hand for the first 2-on-1 beatdown for the Blood and Guts match. Then after that, every 2 minutes, another man enters, rotating each side until all 10 men are in the ring. The only thing I didn't like about the whole setup, and maybe this would have worked in the 80s or even the 90s, but I don't like that the match doesn't officially start until all 10 men are in the ring. Because if you do the math, I come up with 23 minutes. So you could have 23 minutes of spots, and, you know, and none of it is going to factor in. I understand. Look, before anybody criticizes me, I totally understand why you have to do that. Because the match is over when one person gets pinned or submits. Now, I'm not even going to speculate yet who I think is going to win from each side. You know, one side tells me, hey, it could be Hangman Page. One side tells me it could be Matt Jackson. Another side tells me it could be, you know, somebody in the inner circle. I haven't decided who yet. But the point is, you don't want to have near falls before the 10 men are in the ring, because you're not going to have a pin or submission before all 10 men are in the ring. So I get why they don't do that. I kind of would have rather have had maybe an elimination match, not gauntlet, but if somebody loses within that first 23 minutes, they leave the ring. But I'm not going to criticize it. It's a fun match. You look at War Games from yesteryear, even the ones in recent memory, has there really ever really been a bad one? So you know it's going to be pretty damn good. So anyway, let's finish up with some AEW. Now, I know some people may have gotten a little confused with this. We had a segment with Shivani and Britt Baker. Britt Baker, you know, she's trying. She hit magic with that one promo. The rest of them after kind of feel a little too forced. But there are some lines being fed to her that are funny. You know, when she says that she's looking around the arena and she says that she sees some high BMI, which I thought was funny. Another comment I thought was funny, when she was telling everybody you could be anything. She says you could be a janitor, a plumber, a dentist assistant. I said to myself, wouldn't it be funny if she slipped up and said, you could be a janitor, you could be a plumber, you could be a butcher, or a bunny, or a baker. But anyway, she's bad-mouthing the crowd. Crowd is booing her. Not bad in her promo. She gets interrupted by Big Swole. And there was a little of reading between the lines going on. At one point, Britt Baker says to Big Swole that the only person that cares about Big Swole in wrestling is her boyfriend. Big Swole interrupts her and says, I'm married, baby. Now, I know a lot of you already know this, but the baby was a shot to Adam Cole. But for those that don't know, and believe me, I tell you, a lot of people don't know this still. Big Swole is married. Do you know who? I know some people in the chat will get it. Who's she married to? I'm pulling up the chat so I can see. Oh, yeah, I see Brian Long got it. Every time I get the call, no one reacts to me at all. Every time I get the call, no one reacts to me at all. Every time I get the call, no one reacts to me. She's married to Cedric Alexander. Yes, that is true. So that was the little subliminal shot towards Big Swole, and that was the shot towards, you know, Britt Baker with baby. So there you go. So main event, you know, look, I've said this before, and trust me, this will lead into Meltzer's awards. Jericho and Guevara, you know, they take on Hangman Page and his mystery partner, who ended up being Dustin Rhodes. Dustin was fed up with the Inner Circle beating up his friends, so he's going to do some cowboy shit. He's going to team up with Hangman Page. Early on in the match, they're teasing a little bit of disgruntledness between the two. They're not on the same page, but, you know, towards the end of the match, you know, they were clicking pretty damn well. There was one point where Guevara attempts a shooting star press, no good. Page gets out of the way. Page attempts the buckshot from outside the ring onto Guevara, no good. Jericho gets involved. But towards the end of the match, you had Dustin hitting the Canadian Destroyer on Guevara. Page hits the buckshot on Guevara, gets the 1-2-3. A fun match. A lot of gaga with Jericho, which I have no problem with in this stage of his career. Gaga is fine. It's not all Gaga, but Gaga is fine. And I've talked about in the past going to indie shows and seeing wrestlers who have busted their bodies for 20, 30, 40 years. And, you know, those Gaga matches are necessary. If you're entertaining the fans, not everything has to be flippy. You can entertain the fans with their psychology. But after the match was over, we had Santana and Ortiz get involved. Jake Hager get involved. Kenny Omega tries to make the save. You have Matt Jackson trying to make the save. Cody miraculously comes back from the hospital. And QT Marshall came out with Dustin, tries to get involved. And they start brawling. Anyway, Santana and Ortiz, they, along with Jericho and Hager and Guevara, they're getting the upper hand. They're brawling back to the back area. And last week when Dynamite went off the air, you know, they put Moxley through the table. This time around, they're teasing that they're going to do it to Hangman Page. We have Matt Jackson actually save Page. And after he saves Page, he looks at him and gives him the finger as like a little bit of payback. But ultimately, the Inner Circle, they get the upper hand and they lay out Page, and they're all in the ring. I mean, on the rampway in the back, just like last week, and they're all given the finger. And the Inner Circle, for a second week in a row, go out of the show on top. So, you know, it kind of leads to, you know, are they going to go out on top next week? And the week after. So something has to shift in that storyline, but it was fine. It was fine. It was an entertaining show, but again, you know, maybe not a lot really stood out if you really think about it. You know, look, Private Party teaming up with Joey Janela. I know some of you probably thought I forgot about that match with, you know, the Death Triangle. That was a fun match. And what I really liked about that match was that it was very even. Now, you would think on the surface, because they formed this death triangle, that they should have probably squashed whoever they faced. But it was fairly even, and you know, it didn't make the Lucha Brothers expose them in any way or Pac in any way. I like the idea of them being together. In fact, I'll throw this out there. I'm curious how you all feel, because I was thinking about this, especially when I think about MLW and other feds out there. About 3 or 4 months ago, I said AEW needs to make a secondary title. There needs to be a belt available for someone like Guevara, someone like Darby Allin, some of the other single star over there, instead of just Jericho and tag teams and women and now Moxley. So I have been saying for a while they need a secondary title. What do you guys think and gals think about a 6-person title, 6-man title? Because you notice they do have a lot of 6-man tag matches. Now, do I think 6-man tag should be the next title that AEW announces? Absolutely not. They already have a singles title. They already have a tag title. I don't remember, they announced the tag title and then they did that tournament. So I don't think you go from a tag champ to a 6-man tag champ. I think they got to go back and forth. I don't mind if it's a TV title, Carmelo, but they need to create a secondary singles title. I'm hoping they do it before the summer. I know that may sound like a long ways away, but we're already in the middle of March. Trust me. As quick as March came, will be in June. So I'm hoping that they have a singles tag. I agree, man. A little bit too much tag, but because they're trying to fit so many people in a 2-hour schedule. And I also want an update as far as this other show that they're going to be doing on the Turner networks, TNT. I want to know, when is AEW Dark? I mean, is it a month? Is it 2 months? 6 months? Is it 2021? I want to see. But again, not a bad show today, but not a lot that really made it must see. You know, the Moxley interview was fun. Hangman Page is a bigger star than I think AEW expected him to be at this point. I think AEW's rating goes down this week. I think AEW scores, I would say, 831,000. That's about a 70-some-odd thousand drop. I'll say 831. But I also believe that they're going to beat NXT this week as well. Getting into NXT, and, you know, sorry for people out there that are going to be a little bit annoyed that they don't spend as much time in NXT. Again, you got to understand, NXT has more matches that go a hell of a lot longer. All right, but, you know, opening match today, you have Keith Lee versus Cameron Grimes. Not a bad match, but I've been saying this for 6 months now. Believe it or not, Wednesday Night Don-O-Mite's already been around 6 months. Cameron Grimes just doesn't cut it for me. He's very talented. Somebody made me laugh today comparing him to Stevie Ray Vaughan. At one point, it was funny when his hat, who's on the top ring post, fell onto the floor, and Mauro Ranallo yelling, "Down goes that! Down goes that!" It was a decent match, but again, Cameron Grimes just not keep my interest. There was no way Keith Lee was going to lose this title. You know, early on in the match, you know, Keith Lee really showing his size and his strength. There was 2 points that were funny. At one point, Cameron Grimes, while Keith Lee was outside the ring, Cameron Grimes dove onto Keith Lee. Keith Lee caught him upside down. Cameron Grimes was upside down. Go back and look at that again. And you look at the amount of hair that Cameron Grimes has. And you see him upside down, and I'm sorry if this is going to offend anybody out there, but I just picture that unclothed. And I'm like, that's not a sight I want to see. I don't want to see it with whether there was hair or not. But if you see him upside down, and if you just picture it in a perverted sexual way, it looked funny. Another part was Cameron Grimes tries to dive onto Keith Lee, and Keith Lee caught him. And this time, Keith Lee has him holding him like this, by chest up. And Cameron Grimes is staring at Keith Lee, and Keith Lee's holding him like a child. And Keith Lee's going, and it was funny too. I mean, it's just, Keith Lee's a monster. And the match was fine, again. But Cameron Grimes, he does not keep my interest, unfortunately. In the end, we had Keith Lee get the win. And he hit the Big Bang Jackhammer and the Power Slam for the victory. Was a combination of the move. After the match was over, Damian Priest comes out with the police baton, hits Keith Lee in the back. Dominik Dijakovic makes the save. And, you know, this was a little confusing because you couldn't tell, you know, because the way Mauro Ranallo tried to paint it, they tried to paint it that maybe Keith Lee did not know who hit him with the police baton, because Dijakovic helps him up, but Dijakovic also picked up the belt. And all Keith Lee was looking at was the belt. And then he decides to hit the powerbomb onto Dijakovic. The way it came off on TV, to me, storyline purposes, that Keith Lee was more pissed off that Dijakovic picked up the belt and had it in his hand, not that maybe Dijakovic hit him with the police baton. But, you know, it was fine. It did what it needed to do. Keeps Damian Priest in line for a title shot as well. You almost feel like they're leaning towards Priest, Dijakovic, Keith Lee. I don't know if a six-pack challenge is in order. I think Cameron Grimes got his shot now. Now I think it's time to figure out what the hell do we do with Cameron Grimes, in my opinion. Now, another thing they were doing tonight was to start filling up the spots for the ladder match at NXT TakeOver to determine who's going to be the number one contender to Rhea Ripley's title, and it's going to be a ladder match. Going into tonight's show, Chelsea Green was the only person out of 6 women who was announced already. Tonight we were going to get 2 additional women added to that. One of the matches tonight was Dakota Kai versus Mia Yim. Dakota Kai had Raquel Gonzalez in a corner, and the winner of that match would get a spot in the ladder match. A pretty fast match. At one point, there was a little bit of a faux pas. I don't know if it happened on your end, but it happened on my end, that it kind of went to a commercial break, and then it didn't. And then it did, and the Miz's commercial was halfway through. It seemed like it was a little bit of a faux pas. They came back from commercial, and Dakota Kai was basically dominating the match. Then there was a little bit of confusion, and little things like this I don't like. All right, Raquel Gonzalez is outside the ring. She's not standing on the rampway. She's not standing on. Some of you out there apparently are having some issues. Definitely not on my end, my friend. Sorry. You might have to just reload your audio or your video. So that's definitely not on my end. But anyway, what happened was they come back from commercial, and you have the referee arguing with Raquel Gonzalez. And she's arguing, and she's on the floor. She's not standing on the apron. She's not involved in the ring. She's yelling at the referee, and the referee is yelling back, and it just did not come off well on TV. Dakota Kai tried to get a pin, but the referee was distracted. Then you had Mia Yim get the win. After the match was over, you had Raquel Gonzalez get involved. And, it was a little bit of a mess, but it's nice to see Mia Yim get a win, and she advances to the ladder match as well. We had Kushida versus Raul Mendoza, which was a fine match as well, but it only went about 3.5, 4 minutes. Not good enough for me, in my opinion. Kushida obviously is a star, and he's a great draw, but it feels like what I've been saying for a while now, that there's some wrestlers that WWE is just going to wait until WrestleMania is over with and then blow their load on them. I hope that that's their plans for Kushida, because right now it just feels like Kushida, is just it almost feels like he's in purgatory. They play him, the announcers play him off as a major star, and he is extremely talented. But again, it seems like they're waiting until after WrestleMania to give Kushida any type of a push. So going on, we had Charlotte with the confrontation with Rhea Ripley. Did what it needed to do. It was okay. I can't complain as far as the confrontation. Charlotte looked fine. I know there's some people out there that really like to have fun with Charlotte's looks and her plastic surgery. She's not bad looking. I don't know why people just are so obsessed with the way she looks. You don't like the way she looks, that's on you, but it was a decent confrontation. We had a video package involving Walter. They're teasing that Finn Balor is going to be on NXT Live tomorrow night, I believe. And they did a little segment with Finn Balor holding up a passport. So that will continue that storyline tomorrow. Deonna Purrazzo versus Tegan Nox. Go back and watch it. Crowd was dead. I paid attention to the crowd during this match. You had people playing with their phones. You had people looking the other way. You had people with their arms like this. And that is not good. That is not a good look. I was pretty surprised. I mean, Deonna Purrazzo, WWE probably is not using her the way a lot of people would want them to. But the fact that Tegan Nox already is getting that type of lack of reaction is just not good, in my opinion. Crowd was absolutely dead. I know they tried to play off Tegan Nox, selling the left shoulder, being a little bit injured, but she wins a very fast match, and she advances to the ladder match. So now we have 3 spots filled and 3 more to be filled, and, we'll get more spots filled next week. We got that video little teaser like last week, and I said it's probably Killer Cross and Scarlett Bordeaux. I was surprised how many people tonight took notice of the blonde-haired woman that was shown in that package. They showed her last week. I don't know why so many people did not pick up on that last week, but I think it's Killer Cross and Scarlett Bordeaux, and that's going to be happening very, very soon. I think they will be appearing before WrestleMania, just in my opinion. We'll see. Next, we had Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, Roderick Strong come out. It is Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish taking on Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle for a shot at the tag titles once again. And you had Velveteen Dream come out and having a little bit of a confrontation as well, keeping that feud with Roderick Strong alive a little bit. Look, it wasn't a bad main event. It actually ended a little bit before 10, so you knew that something was going to happen with Gargano and Ciampa. And, it was a fun match. I mean, Riddle and Dunn are tremendously over right now. No reason to rock that boat. I'm a little surprised that they still have not teased dissension yet within Undisputed Era. Something's got to go down soon. I don't know. Maybe Adam Cole loses the belt at Mania, and maybe that's where, they start splitting up. I don't know. But Broserweights retain their belts. Then we have Ciampa. Comes out, calls out Gargano. He ends up with a brawl with Gargano. They're brawling down the rampway. They're brawling in the back. They're brawling in the gym area. At one point, he picked up, I think, like one of those round weights that you do like bench presses with, threw it against the glass. They're ripping apart the Performance Center. This brawl leads to, I don't even know how to explain it. I mean, I know you've seen it before, but it's right above the announcer's table, kind of like what the Eagle's Nest used to be in ECW. And it's surrounded, with portable barricades so nobody falls overboard, obviously. Gargano gets the upper hand. He removes the barricade. The announcers have all gone out of Dodge. By the way, Beth Phoenix was back today, which was fine. I know some people out there were saying maybe she should have wore like a neck brace or something. Nah, I didn't think it was a big deal. It was good to see her back. I think that aspect of the storyline with Randy Orton is done. But you had Gargano get the upper hand, teasing that he's going to throw Ciampa off that Raven's nest, the Eagle's nest, and onto the announcer's table. Then Ciampa gets the upper hand. Then that referee pops out of nowhere, and Gargano nails him. And at this point, the way Gargano was looking at the referee, I thought he was going to toss the referee over, which obviously it wouldn't have been as good if he tossed Ciampa, but it would have been an interesting twist to it. Too bad they really can't get physical at all with Mauro Ranallo. But it ends up that Ciampa gets the upper hand, and he hits almost like he does like the Death Valley Driver. He goes off that nest with Gargano. They both go through the table. Awesome spot. Crowd is chanting, holy shit. You got the Performance Center logo in the background. And that's how they go off the air with NXT. I thought it was fine. It was a fun show. Believe it or not, the main event, see, it's a little odd because Riddle and Dunn are over. They're definitely a decent draw, or they're going to maintain their audience with NXT fans. Then you got Ciampa and Gargano having this wild brawl to close out NXT. So, believe it or not, the last 15, 20 minutes of NXT arguably was superior than AEW. I just don't know if that will be enough to overtake AEW in the ratings. Charlotte's appearance was unexpected, but even last time when it was announced beforehand, it still didn't get them a ratings win. So I think NXT this week does, I say it's on the low number 2. I say 727,000. Yeah, it says 727. I almost feel like saying 707, but those are, what did I say earlier for AEW? Did I say 837? I think it might be 837. So anyway, that's how we went off the air. So we will see what the ratings are tomorrow. Now, let's get into a couple of tidbits of news very quickly, and then I want to get into a couple of things about the Meltzer Awards that nobody is talking about. First off, if you're a fan of Billy Gunn, I didn't know this, but Dustin wrote it today on Twitter that Billy Gunn today was celebrating 9 years of sobriety. So, I think some of you may remember those phone calls, Billy Gunn with that woman? Remember many years ago? I didn't bother to go look at my archive shows and see the time frame of when it went down. Something tells me it's right around that time frame. So God bless Billy Gunn, celebrating 9 years sobriety. That's a great thing. Obviously a great thing. NXT, Michigan. And it's interesting because they just had their event in Royal Oak, Michigan. And then we were talking earlier that the Smackdown might be postponed in Detroit, or maybe is. But they had an event last week in Royal Oak, Michigan, and it was a pretty solid card. Ciampa over Damian Priest, Tegan Knox, Mia Yim, and Kaden Carter over Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez, and Santana Garrett. Austin Theory over Bronson Reed. Adam Cole versus Dio Madden was scheduled, but it never happened. Roderick Strong made a run-in. Keith Lee came out, and it ended up being a tag match. Keith Lee and Dio Madden, remember, the Raw announcer who wanted to return to the ring. They defeated Adam Cole and Roderick Strong. Cameron Grimes over Dexter Lumis. Candice LeRae over Aaliyah. And the Broserweights beating Shane Thorne and Brendan Vink to retain the NXT tag titles. Not a bad show. This week, NWA had their Circle Squared, Episode 2 and Episode 3. Only 2 matches. Colby Carino over, and this is a name that some of you may remember, George South. George South, God bless him, 57 years old, been wrestling for, 46 years. It's got to be 40 years. Around 40 years. No, about 40 years. But Colby Carino, look, I've seen him do some work in Evolve and some other feds. Splitting image of his father. Still extremely young, has a lot to improve. The match with George South was not bad. I'm not going to explain the whole Circle Squared setup. You should already know it by now. But look, the match is what it is. You know what I mean? Like Circle Squared, you're not going to get polished, unbelievable superstars of tomorrow. The only thing that I find interesting with Colby Carino and George South is this match was recorded in December. I don't know if the women's match was also recorded in December, but these matches that they have in the bag that they're saving for Circle Squared, they're not strong like that. You know what I mean? So the first 3 episodes of Circle Squared is not bad. And guys that are tuning in live, I don't know what to tell you. I could tell you I'm looking at diagnostics over here and everything is fine. So probably when it plays back, the video and the audio will be fine. Nothing I could do. I don't know what you want me to tell you, but I could tell you that on my end, audio, equipment, streaming, everything is perfect. So I apologize, but I don't know what you want me to do. I did not tweak anything on my end, and it is what it is. So I may have to upload the video that I'm recording right now, because I am recording video. But I'm telling you, on my end, everything seems fine. So, but anyway, I'm going to start wrapping this up soon because we're already going almost 90 minutes. But getting back to NWA Circle Squared, Colby Corino beating George South in about 5 minutes. Again, there's a reason why it's Circle Squared. These are people trying to get contracts. So you're not going to expect 3-4 star matches, but this was a dark match recorded in December. Colby Corino, son of Steve Corino, great look, splitting image of his father. Looks like he's destined to be a star, but to me, the match was not strong enough where anybody could get anything out of this. George South is 57 years old. What am I saying? 40? Did I say 47? He's 57 years old. So, where is he? You know what I mean? Like, his career isn't, he is helping others. Now, the other match that went on, that was episode 3. I will say this. There was one thing funny about George South when he cut his promo. And he was like, I'll punch your mother in the face to be in the NWA. It was funny. He cuts a funny promo. But unfortunately, 57, he's not vying for a contract. So then we had a women's match of Freya the Shea. She's from Alaska, bigger woman. And then she's facing a very small girl by the name of Danny Jordan. Danny, cute look, size of Alexa Bliss. Some people said maybe a little bit like Alexa Bliss. Very plain. She looks like a girl that you might see on Twitter that'll throw you shade. Like that's, you know what I mean? Like, like one of those young girls that, nothing fancy about her, but she's got decent looks. And maybe if you say like you try to say hi to her and she just shoots you down and just rips you to pieces. She cut a decent promo, on Freya the Shea or Shea the Freya. Match was whatever. It wasn't anything memorable. They were playing off Freya the Shea that she's from, I think, Colorado. No, she's from Alaska. And you had this girl, Danny, talking about moose and cold temperatures. I know we're in the era of PC, but I almost felt like she needed to call, even though she's not obese or anything like that, it would have been funny if she would have called Freya the Shea a moose. But it didn't happen. But that's what we got this week. They also announced the first 4 of the 8 teams for the 2020 Crockett Cup. It's going to be Tom Latimer and Royce Isaacs, Ray Orris and Flamita, which is nice, Brody King and Flip Gordon, Rock and Roll Express. So those are the first 4 teams announced. And next week on NWA Superpower, they're going to have Nick Aldis and Tom Latimer teaming up to take on Marty Scurll and Brody King. They're also advertising Jack Stain versus Tim Storm and the Rock and Roll Express versus Aaron Stevens in a question mark. And Camille will have her first interview. So not bad there. Ring of Honor, they're going to have their 18th anniversary show this Friday in Las Vegas. It is going on as planned. Unfortunately, because of travel issues, Adam Brooks, they tried to play it off maybe of, I don't know if it was passport or, they tried to make it play it off like his papers. There were problems with his papers. It almost feels like maybe because of the coronavirus and what's going on in Australia, maybe that's why he's not making it down here. But he will not be appearing. In his place, Jeff Cobb will be taking on Slex, which is a decent match on paper. But I know some of you out there who are going to the Las Vegas show may have been looking forward to seeing Adam Brooks appear. But that will not be the case. You have Roosh versus Mark Haskins for the Ring of Honor heavyweight title. Dragon Lee versus Bandito for the TV title. Jay Lethal and Jonathan Gresham versus Marty Scurll and Flip Gordon for the tag titles. Jay Briscoe and Mark Briscoe versus Dalton Castle and Joe Hendry. Danny Moff versus Kenny King versus Shane Taylor versus Bateman in a dealer's choice match for a future shot at any Ring of Honor title. Nicole Savoy versus Session Moth Martina. Bully Ray versus Eli Isom. And PCO and Brody King taking on Ray Orris and Alex Zane. Not bad at all. In Florida, they're going to be having, if I remember correctly, I think it's going to be PCO versus Nick Aldis for the NWA, NWA heavyweight title. PCO versus Nick Aldis is going to be taking place for Supercard of Honor, April 4th in Lakeland, Florida. So I know some of you out there are definitely going to be going to Ring of Honor. Now, they did announce all participants for the Pure Wrestling Championship. That tournament's going to start April 10th in Columbus, Ohio. The participants for the tournament is Doug Williams, Jonathan Gresham, Alex Shelley, Rocky Romero, Mark Haskins, Slex, Tracy Williams, Marty Scroll, Fred Yehi, I hope I pronounced that right, Yuji Nagata, Joe Henry, Dalton Castle, Ren Narita, Josh Woods, Tony Deppen, and Jay Lethal. So not bad at all. The Women of Honor, they're going to have the Women's World Championship tournament. I have to get used to it because the Women of Honor title was the title that Kelly Klein had. She left the company. They pretty much disbanded that title. So now they're doing the Women's World Championship tournament. Participants so far: Lindsay Snow, Heather Monroe, Miranda Elise, Gia Scott, Ashley Vox, Mandy Leon, Alex Gracia, Tasha Steele, Session Moth Martina, Jenny Rose, Katarina, Nicole Savoy, Angelina Love, Kellyanne, and Sumi Sakai. I think there's one person that they have not announced yet. It's probably going to be a big name. The fact that they're waiting for that last name to be announced. Impact Wrestling, I got a press release from them that they actually have formed a partnership with iHeartMedia, which is very interesting because Impact Wrestling, you know, they now have a sponsor for Slammiversary. We wonder if they're going to be doing their own maybe podcasting work with iHeart. And we'll see where it goes. I mean, it's definitely a nice deal for Anthem and iHeartMedia. We will see. Now, they announced, I think, tonight for Against All Odds, April 17th in Ontario, Tessa Blanchard and Eddie Edwards are going to team up to take on Michael Elgin and Moose, which is an interesting match. I don't know how I feel about it yet. They just announced it, but, you know, doesn't sound all that bad. I think we're going to wrap this up momentarily. I did see Impact Wrestling this week. You know, Sabu making his return was nice. I actually had the opportunity to, you know, be around Sabu a little bit for the big event. Looks fabulous. You know, obviously I'm sure he's hurting, but still could go. So I have no problem. I mean, there's some people out there complaining that Impact Wrestling is using old ECW stars. I mean, they're trying to have a little bit of a different identity. You know what I mean? So what? You know what I mean? If they have a little bit of a different identity, so be it. But what do I think about Gut Check? It's not what it used to be, Smokey Bear. Not what it used to be at all. Again, it just feels like Impact throwing a lot of different things on the wall, hoping that something sticks. And I don't think so. The TNA special on March 31st, I mentioned this last week, and I was hoping that they would focus on, because remember, the show WrestleMania weekend is a nostalgic show. And, you know, they're calling it a throwback special on March 31st. And I was hoping that they would profile the people who are going to be showing up, or at least some of them, WrestleMania weekend. Because having a throwback special on Access TV is all nice and dandy, but where does that lead to? And I saw the clips advertising for it, and almost everybody they showed is what I feared, all WWE guys. And it's like, you know, I understand, you know, that a lot of WWE stars, because they're WWE stars right now, maybe people want to see how they performed in TNA who weren't fans of TNA at the time. Maybe they weren't even wrestling fans at the time. But it just, I'm not fond of it. If you're going to do a nostalgic show in Florida and you're going to do a nostalgic show on TV, I almost feel like, at least showcase the people who are going to be appearing in Florida. It just felt like, hey, everybody, our current product can't draw on its own. So why don't you look at all of these names that you see on an every week basis on WWE? I just don't like it. I don't like it. But I'm not going to knock it because it's probably going to be a good show. And hell, the clips that they show are probably going to be phenomenal ones, pun intended. But we'll see. It's going to happen in 20 days. Chris Bay is going to be returning to Impact. A lot of people think he's debuting next week for Impact, but he actually wrestled there before. We already talked about that. Also, for those that are going to be going to Florida, WrestleMania weekend, check that out. They announced it today that WrestleCon is going to have a broken tailgate party with Matt Hardy. Now, here is basically what I got, which is interesting. Friday, April 3rd, Saturday, April 4th, George M. Steinbrenner Field in Tampa, Florida. Matt Hardy will be there taking photos. Now, there's autographs are going to be available too, but I just don't understand why they didn't announce this beforehand, because what they announced, maybe the more information came out later today, but they announced that at 11 o'clock on that Friday and 11:15 on that Saturday, you could take a digital photo with Matt Hardy for $50. And the digital photo, I don't believe is from your own camera. I think they take the photo, and then an hour or two later, the photo is available online for you to retrieve. That's what I think they're doing. They're also offering for an extra $10, you can get a printed copy of it. Not everybody has photo paper at home. So you take a picture with Matt Hardy, you could pay them $60 instead of $50, and you get a printed photo of the picture you took with him. They are going to offer autographs, but the autographs is not included in this $50 or $60 price. So I did not see anything as far as the cost of the autographs. But, hey, I got to meet him last week. A lot of fun. So a lot of you out there probably want the opportunity to shake hands with Matt Hardy and take a picture. So he will be at WrestleCon. Yeah, sounds delightful. Now, I'm going to close out with this. Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer Newsletter Awards. Now, look, I hope you were not tuning into this to the very end, expecting me to get into this whole diatribe. Some people wanted my thoughts on it. My thoughts are this. For everybody that's tuning in right now, and I actually want to get the actual answer in front of me. For those that are tuning in right now, and hopefully I get to prove my point this way. Tell me, everybody, what is Will Ospreay's finishing maneuver called? What's his finishing maneuver called? Will Ospreay. Tell me what his finishing maneuver is. I'm curious if anybody tuning in live right now actually knows Will Ospreay's finishing maneuver. Now, I think some of you out there may try to Google it in the process, but the thing is, nobody right now is responding with an answer. Now, why am I even bringing up Will Ospreay's finishing maneuver? Okay. All right. Richard Adams says the OE cutter. All right. I give you that one, but it's actually his finishing maneuver is the hidden blade, and he's got the Stormbreaker. All right. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because Will Ospreay's Stormbreaker won the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Award for Best Wrestling Maneuver of 2019. Runner-ups were Kenny Omega's One-Winged Angel, Okada's Rainmaker, Ospreay's Hidden Blade, Jericho's Judas Effect, Takaji's Last of the Dragon, Kota Ibushi's Kamagohi, I think that's how you pronounce it. And Darby Allin's coffin drop. Take notice that no WWE finishing maneuvers are in there. Take note that it's mostly Japan, AEW. Here's my point. I watched person after person after person on social media for the last week rip apart Meltzer's awards. Jungle Boy, Rookie of the Year. Now, in my opinion, the son of this guy was Rookie of the Year 2019. Jungle Boy did not have enough matches, in my opinion, to be Rookie of the Year. The Booker of the Year was Gato. The worst promotion of the year is WWE. Now, let's be honest. Ring of Honor had a pretty shitty 2019. Impact Wrestling, arguably, as well. All right, WWE had a lot of garbage stuff, but NXT is part of WWE. My point is this, plain and simple. I have been saying this for years, and I will keep saying it. If you don't like Dave Meltzer, if you think he's a joke, if you think that he is biased for AEW, that is his prerogative. You are not chained to a chair. You are not forced to pay attention to him. There is a shitload of jealousy out there towards Dave Meltzer. Because me, once in a blue moon, I'll say something about Wade Keller. I've never said a peep about Bruce Mitchell or some others because I just don't follow them. I don't pay attention to them. I don't particularly care for their style, what they write. So if you don't like Meltzer, if you think he's biased, why the fuck do you keep mentioning every little fart that this guy says and does? Just think about that for a minute. If you don't like a writer, why do you do every little thing that this person said? I feel it could only be jealousy. They can't stand that this guy gets the attention that he does. They can't stand the fact that a wrestling maneuver was named after him. Now, yes, I am a subscriber to Meltzer's newsletter for a very long time. But my point is, Meltzer, and it's funny because people tuning in live right now says the audio's fixed. I did not touch nothing. I did not touch nothing. I'm hoping to God on the playback everything is fine, but I'm telling you, I touched nothing. I think it was a YouTube issue. Seriously. But I recorded it anyway, so I have backup video. I always keep a backup now, in case. Now, anybody playing this back, if everything was fine, you don't have to no worry about. But Meltzer, here's the thing. And I say this with the utmost respect for everybody out there. If you don't like Meltzer, ignore him. If you think he's too pro-Japan, ignore him. If he thinks Omega and Page and the Young Bucks was a 6-star match and you think it's goofy, ignore him. Why do you pay attention to him? Again, I don't think I've ever said 2 words about Bruce Mitchell. I don't like the guy. I could say some very choice words for the guy. His style and, some of the things he does really turns me off. But I also say, that's his prerogative. That's his choice. And if people want to follow him, I respect that. I keep his name out of my mouth. So now it gets to the Observer Newsletter Awards. Now, if you're not aware about some of these awards, let me read you some of them and you'll get to my other point. Wrestler of the Year for 2019, number 1, Chris Jericho. Now, I have praised Jericho till no end, the way he reinvented himself. But as Jericho put on the quality of matches in 2019 that he should be the overall Wrestler of the Year, I kind of disagree with that. I would have put Adam Cole as number 1. Adam Cole was ranked 5th on this. Cody was ranked 4th. Ospreay number 3. Okada number 2. Mayahara was number 6. Ibushi 7. Moxley 8. Tanahashi 9. And Kenny Omega 10. All right. You had the most outstanding wrestler, Will Ospreay, number 1. You have the most outstanding, well, we're not going to get into MMA stuff. Tag Team of the Year, Lucha Brothers. Young Bucks, number 2. Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly, number 3. Santana and Ortiz, number 4. All right, whatever. Frankie Kazarian, Scorpio Sky, number 8, which I think is a little off, but, they were a distant 8. Let me go a little further. Best on the interviews. Jericho, number 1. Cody, number 2. MJF, number 3. MJF is one of my favorite AEW stars. Has he cut enough promos to be the 3rd biggest interviewer in 2019? Maybe not. Becky Lynch was ranked number 7. Promotion of the year, New Japan, number 1. AEW, number 2. WWE, number 3. Best weekly TV show, Dynamite, in a landslide, number 1. NXT, not necessarily in that landslide, but NXT, kind of a distant 2nd. Pro wrestling match of the year, Will Ospreay versus Takagi from Tokyo. Now, have you figured out where I'm going with this? All right, I'll go a little bit further. You have, let's see, women's wrestling MVP. Becky Lynch, believe it or not, at number 1. Tessa Blanchard, number 2. Shayna Baszler, number 3. Best box office draw, Jericho, number 1. Blew it away, number 2, Lesnar. Feud of the year, Adam Cole Gargano. My point is this. A lot of the names that I brought up just now, you probably disagree with. I disagree with a lot of those choices. But it's pretty obvious that a lot of people out there don't even understand how these awards are done. It is the readers, the subscribers of the newsletter and Meltzer who come up with these awards and the winners. I'll use an example. All right. And I'm saying this with love because I've praised him several times. I have a newfound respect for this guy. JD from New York. You tune into JD from New York, usually on a Monday night, and a majority of his podcasts will be criticizing WWE. He wants to see it better, but right now it is cacas. And a lot of people tune in to hear him rip apart WWE. Elimination Chamber, I thought was the worst pay-per-view that I've seen in the last 10 years. Not necessarily because the matches were god-awful, but not only was some of the matches not that good, but the lack of main eventers and champions on that card. Yet, that pay-per-view recap is the most listened to pay-per-view recap that I have done so far on YouTube. Sometimes people tune in to hear you complain. My point is, you need to understand Dave Meltzer's audience. Meltzer puts over Japan like crazy. Most of his readers also put over Japan like crazy. They put over AEW a hell of a lot more than maybe casual fans out there. A lot of their readers do the same. So when these awards come out and you see the choices that have come out and you see these people, especially in podcast and website land, ripping apart these awards, it just, you got to take a step back and understand that it's not Meltzer or the subscribers that are the problem here. It is the goofs that don't understand that is Meltzer's audience in the newsletter. That is who he attracts a majority of. So his awards, their choices are going to reflect his audience. Just like JD's awards, if he did them, or if I did them, or Jason Solomonster, or Soup, or anyone else does, our fan base may be different. I praise a lot of AEW. Some of my friends in the podcasting world can't stand AEW. All they do Wednesday night is throw one-liners online, just ripping them apart. So everybody's audience is different. So that is my answer as far as the Meltzer Awards go. I disagree with a lot of the choices, but again, it's the readers that come up with these winners. And if you don't like Meltzer, why do you pay attention to him? I asked that I have asked that to podcasters, websites, even casual fans. Why do you pay attention to him? I see people constantly ripping this guy up. What hold does he have against you? I think a lot of it is jealousy. I think they see a grown person who is a writer, who gets a lot of love from wrestlers and gets a lot of hate as well, has wrestling move named after him, mingles and rubs elbows with other wrestlers. And I think that eats up a lot of people. It's usually the same people who made fun of the guys who went on the Chris Jericho cruise. They used sausage fest and all this other stuff. It's usually the same people. I went to the big event. I wore my Don Tony shirt. I wore it for 3 reasons. Number one, people that were going there, because there was over 1,000 people going and you can't even move, it would be easy to find me that way. Number two, I work 60 shows in indie wrestling doing managing and stuff. I think I can wear my own shirt, People were trying to make fun of it. Oh, look at this goof wearing his own shirt. There's just a lot of people out there that don't like to see you or me or others have fun, do things that they're not doing. And again, I just don't understand. You don't like Meltzer, and I'm not defending him. A lot of the awards I disagree with completely. But if you don't like him, don't pay attention to him. I don't get that. So anyway, everybody, I am done. I went about an hour and 50, which is pretty close to what I did last week and the week before. If you guys and gals want me to do something live Friday after SmackDown to talk about SmackDown, talk a little bit more about this coronavirus and some of the other things going on, definitely let me know. If you're on Twitter, contact me on Twitter at DonTonyD. And I'll come on Friday for a little while, maybe just for an hour, just to have casual conversation. I do a ton of preparation for these shows, Monday and Wednesday especially. So Friday, I would love to be able to do it without having to pull tons of notes and just, talk, and everybody tuning in live will chat, and you'll dictate where the show goes. Now, for my Patreon friends and family out there, Mish and I were planning on doing Breakfast Soup Thursday. Problem is, he's got Wrestling Soup that has to take place Thursday. And now with all this additional stuff going down, we're talking about maybe holding off Breakfast Soup until Saturday. By Saturday, we will have an episode of Breakfast Soup, but I'm going to talk to Mish tomorrow morning and ask him if he wants to do it Thursday afternoon or Saturday afternoon. Something tells me I think a lot of you out there would rather us do it Saturday afternoon so we get 2-3 extra days worth of news and we can really, get into the meat and potatoes of it. So as of right now, the schedule will be Friday. I'll be back right here on YouTube for the Don Tony Show for everybody. Saturday, I will be up with Mish for our Patreon family for Breakfast Soup. And then Monday, I plan on coming back for the DTKC show as well. Now, I did tell everybody that April 11th, that weekend, is my engagement party. Getting married soon. And the week after, I will be away in Connecticut. So, unfortunately, I won't be around to cover the Crockett Cup live. Probably do it a couple of days later, but we'll definitely work around the schedule. So, Dayhawk, blah, blah, blah is next week. If Mish, has any technical problems and he cannot do Breakfast Soup by Saturday, I will definitely do an episode of blah, blah, blah. Absolutely. There will definitely be something Saturday. Could very well end up being tomorrow. Hell, if I do Breakfast Soup tomorrow, Mish, maybe I do blah, blah, blah Saturday too. Definitely enough stuff to talk about. But please, feedback as always. And if you like the show, just doesn't cost nothing. Before you leave now, just hit the like button because it does help, this show get a little extra exposure. Now, as soon as I disconnect now, I will immediately play it back to see if there was any issue audio-wise. Like I said, I am recording a backup. So if there is any issue, then I will just re-upload it with the video I have saved. So if the playback for any reason does not work, then, I'll have the new link up there. But something tells me everything's going to be fine. Like I said, I had no problems on my end. I don't know what the issues were with audio earlier, but all right, everybody, be well. Much love as always. Have a great night. And, again, with this stuff going on with the coronavirus, just please be safe. There's just a lot of crazy shit going on right now, and I definitely don't want to see anybody get stricken with it. So, again, just common sense, be aware of your surroundings, and good hygiene. More important right now, because, your hygiene may be good, but the person around you may not be so good. So you have to almost compensate for them. You can't trust anybody to be doing the right thing. So, all right, everybody, take care, be well. And I will catch you all again next week. Nothing but love.
Don-O-Mite.
It was fun to channel surf. It was kind of hard to do a little pocket pool after you hitting the last channel button 50 times for 2 hours plus.
Don-O-Mite.
And his whole idea of overanalyzing, he's an alcoholic and he misplaced the belt. And how could you have someone champion like that? Get the fuck out of here.
Wednesday night.
Don-O-Mite. You can have fun. You really are.